these are all major institutions which respond to the structure of power and wealth and concentration of decision-making within the general society. So, for example, the corporate-run media are corporations. Not surprising that they keep to the essentially business framework. Some questions, of course. But, you know, even the business press, like, say, the Wall Street Journal, criticizes corruption, corporate corruption. But the framework doesn't go much beyond it. And issues that go beyond that pretty narrow consensus, which is very closely reflected inside the Beltway, they just are not, it's not objective to discuss them. I mean, I mentioned one, but you can pick any you like the major foreign policy issue right now. It's supposed to be the threat of Iran. And all over the place we hear about the threat of Iran and how the international community strongly objects to Iran's efforts to develop nuclear capabilities, trying to block them and so on. Well, there are other points of view. For example, this is the point of view of the large majority of countries in the world, which vigorously, for years, have supported Iran's right to, as a signer of the Non-Proliferation Treaty, its right to enrich uranium. All right, they're not part of the discussion. They're what George Orwell called the unpeople, you know, look like people, but not real people. So let's just keep to what's called the international community, meaning the United States and whoever goes along with it. They are concerned with the threat of Iran. What exactly is the threat of Iran? Well, you look at the discussion, you don't see much about that, although there is an authoritative answer, very straightforward answer. It's given by the Pentagon and U.S. intelligence in their regular submissions to Congress on global security. Couldn't be a more authoritative source. I try to find some comment on it, even report of it. I mean, what they say basically is that the threat of Iran is that it might become a deterrent to the free use of American force, or that it's destabilizing its neighbors, meaning it's expanding its influence into its neighboring countries, which have been stabilized by U.S. invasion. Once you think through the significance of the threat, you learn quite a lot about ourselves. But that's not discussed. It's outside the framework of dominant power systems. And this goes right across the board. So if we say go back 70 years, right after the Second World War, one of the major foreign policy issues, foreign and domestic, was what was called the loss of China. It's still called the loss of China. And the debate about who's responsible for the loss of China, and can we accept the loss of Indonesia, and so on and so forth. Just the very terminology tells you something about the ideological system. I mean, I can't lose your computer because it's not mine, so I can't lose it. I can't lose China unless I own China. But that we own the world is just a presupposition of discourse. So if China moves towards independence, there's a loss of China. And then we've got to move very quickly to prevent the loss of Indochina. And then later, you know, the loss of South America, maybe right now, the loss of the Middle East if the uprisings really take off. But the whole framework of discussion presupposes a very deep-seated imperial mentality, which is not open to challenge and discussion, but it should be, just as the question of whether 100 years of maximal fossil fuel use will leave a world that our grandchildren can survive in should be discussed, but isn't. And we can go on case after case. I mean, there is intelligent, rational discussion of things which are internal to the rather well-framed spectrum. Things that go outside of that are either ignored or else denounced, you know, anti-American, There's a whole series of curse words that you can use to just dismiss them.